Haytham bin Tariq sends a cable of condolences to His Highness the Emir of Kuwait on the death of Sheikh Ali Fahd al-Salim al-Mubarak al-Subah. The Sultanate condemns the blasts in Kabul airport and calls for the return of diplomatic relations between Morocco and Algeria. And the UN Security Council urges the Kabul bombers are to be brought to justice. Those were the headlines. Now for the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq sent a cable of condolences to His Highness Sheikh Nawaf al-Ahmad al-Jaber al-Subah, Emir of Kuwait, on the death of Sheikh Ali al-Fahd al-Salim al-Mubarak al-Subah. The Sultanate, in a statement by the Foreign Ministry, expressed its condemnation for the blast that targeted the Kabul airport yesterday. It expressed its condolences and sympathy towards the families of the victims and wished a speedy recovery for the injured. In a statement by the Foreign Ministry, the Sultanate called for the return of diplomatic relations between the Kingdom of Morocco and the People's Democratic Republic of Algeria as soon as possible, and for addressing the contentious issues between them through dialogue and understanding, so as to preserve the two brotherly countries and their people the interests in security, stability, and permanence of cooperation based on the principles of good neighborliness and non-interference in the internal affairs. His Excellency Sayyid Badr bin Hamad al-Busaidi, Foreign Minister, made a phone call to His Excellency Hussein Amir Abdullahian, Foreign Minister of the Islamic Republic of Iran, expressing his congratulations on his appointment to his new position within the government lineup of the Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi. His Excellency the Minister expressed his sincere wishes to the Iranian Minister of success in the performance of his duties. During the call, the two ministers affirmed the depth of the existing relations between the two friendly countries and their determination to continue and strengthen the existing positive cooperation between them in various fields in a way that brings mutual benefits and supports good neighborly relations at the bilateral and regional levels. His Excellency Sayyid Badr bin Hamad al-Busaidi, the Foreign Minister, expressed his happiness for the Sultanate winning of membership in the Board of Directors of the Universal Postal Union UPU for the period from 2021 until 2024 during elections convened at the International Post Conference in Côte d'Ivoire. His Excellency pointed out in his statement to Oman News Agency that the Sultanate's winning will enable it to contribute positively in setting up the strategies of the international post work, embodying its pioneering role, civilizational legacy, and historical ties over ages and eras. Vaccination centers in the Governorate of Dhofar witnessed noticeable increase in the number of vaccinated people during the last days. The vaccination percentage for the targeted categories in the Governorate amounted to more than 53%. The vaccination centers has witnessed good turnout due to increasing awareness among all segments of the society. On the other hand, the epidemiological situation in the Governorate has improved and the number of COVID-19 patients in hospitals declined gradually. Many people have been rushing joyfully back to restaurants, salons, and shops and touring around Oman since the most stringent lockdown restrictions were eased. More details in the following report.
With strict precautionary measures to be maintained and the importance of taking vaccines by all across the Sultanate, many people have been rushing joyfully back to their restaurants, saloons and shops and touring around Oman since the most stringent lockdown restrictions were eased a week ago. Many were thrilled about this full reopening.
We heard His Excellency, the Minister of Health, that the fatalities, the infection rate, and the death rate of corona has reduced drastically. But we need to ensure that we use all precautions so that we don't go back to the same situation.
If only you could see my smile behind the mask. It's a year-to-year smile ever since I heard that the lockdown was lifted. But there is still a long way to go. So yes, our economy needed that boost. The businesses were suffering. All in all, really happy to hear that news till the time people are following their basics, till the time they are maintaining that social distancing, till the time they're wearing that mask. Because if you've got COVID once, it's not that you'll not get it again. Or if you've taken 2 shots, it's not that you'll not get COVID. We've heard stories that it's still spreading. So just follow the basics and I think we're almost there.
We as business communities, we welcome government decisions to lift the bans in Oman, traveling bans in Oman, and we can see the flights coming in. Having said that, the COVID is still on the ground. We need to follow the COVID protocol. We need to wash our hands regularly. We need to wear the mask, and we need to keep the social distance.
It is important to note that the Sultanate have so far done a relatively good job of containing the coronavirus as a result of the imposed lockdown and people's adherence to the preventive measures. Hence, it is necessary to continue following comprehensive preventive measures to beat this pandemic. Abdullah bin Ahmed al-Rabi'i, Sultanate of Oman Television, Muscat.
Still to come on News Bulletin. A 22-year-old mountain biker pulls off massive front flip heel clicker said to be a world's first. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman Television. The United Nations Security Council urged the international community to bring the perpetrators of the Kabul airport bombings to justice in a joint statement released today. Meanwhile, the Taliban has joined global leaders in condemning the twin suicide bombs that ripped through crowds waiting to be evacuated outside Kabul airport, killing at least 85 people, including 13 U.S. troops. President Joe Biden vowed to hunt down those behind the suicide bombings. He said in a White House address that evacuations of vulnerable people would continue until August 31st. Russia also blasted the attacks in the strongest possible terms. China said it was shocked by the explosions. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson condemned the barbaric attack, paying tribute to the phenomenal effort of those involved in the evacuation operation. French President Emmanuel Macron expressed his condolences to the families of the American and Afghan victims. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, condemned the twin heinous terrorist bombings, and the Secretary General Youssef Al-Uthaymin reaffirmed the OIC's firm principled position against terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. The medical supplies are running out in the Afghanistan, where the World Health Organization WHO said today it hoped to establish an air bridge into the northern city of Mazar-e-Sharif with the help of Pakistani authorities within the next 2 or 3 days. Rick Brennan, WHO's regional emergency director, speaking from Cairo, told a Geneva briefing that right now, because of the security concerns and several other operational considerations, Kabul airport is not going to be an option for the next week at least. Brennan said insurance rates for flying into Afghanistan have skyrocketed. Some 14,000 firefighters facing changing weather conditions battled more than a dozen large wildfires across California, including a growing blaze that was slowly pushing towards the Lake Tahoe resort region. Flames shone through mountains just southwest of Tahoe Basin, a home to thousands and recreational playground for millions of tourists who visit the Alpine Lake in summer and ski at many resorts in winter. Echo Summit, a mountain pass where the cliff-hanging U.S. Route 50 begins its descent towards Lake Tahoe, is where firefighters plan to make their stand if the Calder fire keeps burning through dense forests in the Sierra Nevada. The fire is one of the nearly 90 large blazes in the U.S. There were more than a dozen big fires in California, including one that destroyed 18 homes in Southern California, which has so far escaped the scale of wildfires plaguing the North all summer. The number of coronavirus patients in the U.S. hospitals breached 100,000 yesterday and the highest level in 8 months, according to the Department of Health and Human Services, as a resurgence of COVID-19 spurred by the highly contagious Delta variant strains in the nation's healthcare system. The U.S. COVID-19 hospitalizations have more than doubled in the past month. Over the past week, more than 500 people with COVID were admitted to hospitals each hour on average. The United States reached its all-time peak for hospitalization on January the 6th. There were 132,051 coronavirus-infected patients in hospital beds. As the vaccination campaign expanded in early 2021, hospitalizations fell and hit a 2021 low of 13,843 on June the 28th. Florida has the highest number of COVID-19 hospitalized patients, followed by Texas and California. The United States has given at least one dose of vaccine to about 61% of all its population. Africa director of the World Health Organization said yesterday that the COVID-19 vaccinations in Africa tripled over the past week, though protecting even 10% of the continent by the end of September remains a very daunting task. Meanwhile, the continent saw 248,000 new confirmed cases over the past week, with at least 24 countries seeing a surge in infections driven by the Delta variant. Matashido Moiti said 13 million doses were administered in the past week, 3 times more than the number of shots given in the previous week as donations of doses increased from developed countries. But that remains a drop in the ocean for the continent home to 1.3 billion people, where Africa's CDC said only 2.4% are currently vaccinated. Africa will receive 117 million doses in the coming months, but an additional 34 million will be needed to reach the 10% vaccination target. 22-year-old Australian mountain biker Elias Russo landed a front flip heel clicker trick at the 2021 Audi 9's event in Birkenfeld, Germany yesterday, the first time that the maneuver has been successfully completed in the competition. The complex aerial trick involves the rider performing a forward aerial flip while simultaneous lifting of his feet over his arms and bringing those close enough to click his heels together in front of him, then make the landing. Russo said after the celebrations with fellow competitors had calmed down a bit that he was super happy and glad to land his first ever front flip heel clicker, and it's actually a world's first trick. Trucks that carry various types of food and water from different borders shipped by land, seas, and air are not allowed until after undergoing full inspection and examination to ensure their food safety. More details in the following report.
Food safety is an essential element of food security. Trucks that carry various types of food and water from different borders shipped by land, sea, and air are not allowed in until after undergoing full inspection and examination to ensure food safety. The examination is carried out at the central laboratory, where a thorough check is performed before allowing the distribution to take place in the markets, centers, and shops.
The mission of this institute is to ensure quality and food safety of agriculture products and food in general. Since the start of taking this project, we had a vision of installing an institute to the highest standards, international standards, that will provide all what requires for ensuring quality and safety to our food and agricultural products. We started putting in place the equipments and the systems in 2020 during the COVID period. By end of the year, we are proud to have established an international standard lab.
The center is operated by United Integrated Laboratories under the full Omani management and Omani technicians that exceeds 50%. 10 chemical and biological laboratories equipped with the specifications accredited internationally. Working with qualified national cadres, utilizing advanced testing equipment, examining samples with high accuracy around the clock.
I'm doing whatever related to the pest control or pest management or pest disease or pest plant pest. So this is my occupation or my duty here in integrated laboratories. We do in biology labs several testings, either food tests or water tests or plant seedling test or seed test. All to inspect whatever coming in the goods or in consignments. If they are coming from outside of Oman, that means we have to find whether there is any quarantine pest in that consignment, like different kind of diseases, or different kind of insect pest, or if for food quality testing, we have to find whether there is any salmonella in it or whether there is any E. coli or other diseases which might cause some problems for the pupils.
The center receives 700 samples every month and makes 400 samples per day. The Central Laboratory for Health and Food Safety of the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, Wealth and Water Resources is equipped with the latest advanced equipment and devices to examine incoming foods in order to ensure the safety and quality of food and thus protecting public health and consumers. From here, Central Laboratory for Phytosanitary and Food Safety, Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries, Wealth and Water Resources, United Integrated Laboratory, Rumeis, Barka.
This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's news bulletin, here are the main points once again. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq sends a cable of condolences to His Highness the Emir of Kuwait on the death of Sheikh Ali Fahd al-Salim al-Mubarak al-Subah. The Sultanate condemns the blast in Kabul airport and calls for the return of diplomatic relations between Morocco and Algeria. And the UN Security Council urges the Kabul bombers are to be brought to justice. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, is good night and stay safe.